Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dr. Vaughn Huckfeldt, and I want to tell you about human trafficking and the issue of the task force here in Montrose to stop human trafficking. Human trafficking, can we actually stop it? Let's look at that as a topic and see just exactly what we can do. What am I going to tell you today? Well, first of all, human trafficking. What is it? How bad is it? Who are the victims? Who does the trafficking? Who's involved? And what are the types of information there? How do I know this? And what is the problem and what is the actual solution? How does the STOP program that we have work to get that solution? And why Montrose for a task force? Okay, we're going to look at all that, and then what do we have as the task force, what's done, and what is needed. Okay, so initially, let's look at just the facts. Simply the facts that say, what are the number of victims in the world? When I started working on this 20 years ago there in Eastern Europe and rescuing a lot, just rescuing girls but not trying to stop it, there was 20 million. Now it's estimated 40 million victims in the world. The cartels take in up to $155 billion a year in money. Why are they in that? Well, yes, they're getting out of drugs and guns because as you do this, you can only sell a drug and gun once, whereas you can sell a girl or a boy up to 40 times a day. In Colorado, here's a statistic for you. Some 50 children go missing every month in Colorado. A number of those simply walk away from home, but a number of them are on the street and they are trafficked. Yes, what's an example right here in Montrose? I'll just give you the tip of the iceberg, and I know a lot about it. I know more things, but the tip of the iceberg is an example. A 13-year-old girl gets romanced by a 20-year-old guy. They become involved sexually. Then he gets her hooked on drugs. Now she can only have the drugs if she services the 20 to 50-year-old men that are sent to her. Yes, they pay him and it's trafficking. Well, but as Paul Harvey says, what's the rest of the story? The rest of the story is she's now a 14-year-old mother. She's in rehabilitation, but that's the type of thing that we need to stop. Yes, how bad is it in the world? I'll give you another example. A man in another country, people think he's a trafficker. He goes in and buys children. As he buys children, he goes there. There are 30 children for sale. He buys them for $250 a piece. He's got them. He's going to actually take them and get them into good homes and save them. But he looks over in the corner and says, hey, that's a beautiful girl and that handsome boy. I'd like to have them. He's told, no, you can't have them. They've been sold to China to be taken apart as body parts. Yes, it is the most evil thing in the world. We need to stop it. Well, why? Well, the government's going to stop it. Why is this in a light green that you can hardly read? Because it's not working. The government isn't stopping it. It is illegal as a federal law, but in the FBI for 12 years, up to 2 years ago, had a sting operation in the Super Bowls, the major concerts, the big rodeos, everything, but they only rescued 1,000 girls and millions spent. They've discontinued the program. They said it wasn't economically successful. Okay, well, the state will do it. The state does have a Colorado task force of 30 people working against human trafficking, but that task force has only done one effective law in 5 years. That law says that it's illegal to charge a girl with prostitution if she was trafficked and if she was under 18. What about the girl that's 18 and a half or 19? Oh, she's a prostitute. No. Well, they do have an effective training program, and our task force will use anything that's good from any other place in the country or that training program or anything that we can utilize to help stop human trafficking. It is not a government solution. It's not a local government solution. It's up to the local community with our task force to help stop human trafficking. What are the types of victims? Well, the first one is those kidnapped, like the boys and girls kidnapped off the street into slavery. Yes, that does happen, and it's part of it. It's not all of it, but it is a good, part of the example. What about those that take a job? Well, I've given a lecture at the Northern Colorado University, and a girl came up afterwards and said, yes, I'm an example of that. I do nanny work in the summertime to pay for my college, and I was going to make 4 times as much in Hawaii at a job, and I was given an airline ticket. She said, when I got out of the plane, my mother called me and said, run in the restroom and hide, because that guy's a trafficker. She was, she didn't fall finally into it, but she almost took the job. Others take the job, and the job is selling them. Okay? Those that are sold by parents into sexual slavery. Well, yes, that does happen in the Far East, where they have too many kids and they have to sell a girl or a boy into sexual slavery. But it happens right here in Colorado, especially with those who are using drugs and they can't afford the drugs. And we've seen an example in Longmont where they sold their kids to buy the drugs. The other type, this is the example of the girl here in Montrose, romanced into a sexual slavery. Why in a different color? Because these 3 categories want out, except that they're beaten into submission, psychologically taken into submission, so they can't get out. But this one doesn't even know that she's trafficked. She's in love. Who traffics the victims? Yes, organized crime is a good part of it. And I've met with the head of the mafia in Riga, Latvia, a large city of 800,000. It's the Paris of the North, a very beautiful city and major tourism of that area. I met with this man and in the process talked to him about what I'd heard on the street. I said, I hear you have about 5,000 girls. He said, no, we have 12,000. He could have been talking about his shoe store inventory. That's just as much as he considered it. Each girl was simply something to sell. Gangs. Where there's gangs, there's drugs. Where there's drugs, there's girls covering the drugs and girls helping sell the drugs and girls being used for sex to cover the drugs. You have 3 gangs here in Longmont, in Montrose. Yes, labor sites. Well, there's also trafficking labor sites where men are paid very little, but they are trafficked in and they get the work done. Okay, yes. How are they paid? Well, they have to pay a great deal of their little bit of income for lodging, but they also pay for sexual services by trafficked girls. Okay, schools? Wait a minute, schools? Yes, there's an example right now. This is Human Trafficking Month in the year. And yesterday was human trafficking, and the governor even made a proclamation about rescuing those in human trafficking. Well, in eastern Colorado, a man, a gym teacher, was arrested for sexual involvement with one of his students, and he was actually selling her. Yes, in the school. Another example, I'm counseling a 40-year-old man who still hasn't recovered from being trafficked as a 5-year-old boy by his school principal in Maine many years ago. Another example, on the East Coast, a girl in New Jersey goes disappearing, and she's found through a program that I'm going to tell you about in Arizona. She's with another girl, and they're being sold out in trafficking by who? By the other girl's grandmother as the pimp. Yes, you have all sorts of people involved in the sales. How do I know about all this? What's my background that is such that I can get this done? Well, I am a full professor at the University of Colorado, and I've taught at other universities both here in Colorado, the U.S., and overseas. I am a pastor trained in family therapy, and I know how to help victims. I have done for a think tank developing solutions in higher education. I've been an engineer for NASA on satellites. I do know how to research things. But more importantly, I've been trained by a manager. When the Lord involved me in this, I gave a lecture and a sermon at a big church in Riga, Latvia. A man came up afterwards and said, take all that black pastoral stuff off and put your blue jeans and a leather jacket on. I'm going to take you on the street. He said, I've been a manager in human trafficking up to the last 2 years. I'm now with the Lord and with the church. He took me on the street and gave me more of an education than I give my graduate students. Yes, I have experience in 18 countries of Eastern Europe in rescuing girls. We can do it here in Montrose. What is the problem? Well, the problem is it's under the rug and it's not seen. But the bigger part of the problem is the public doesn't know anything about it. I've done a survey since I've been back, and 90% of the public knows nothing about human trafficking at all. Officials, well, they're busy with other problems. It's difficult to find the missing, but now we have programs to do that. The supply is infinite. Society has many, many hurts. I was speaking with, trying to talk for just a little bit about the head of all human services at Montrose County. I asked for 5 minutes. She gave me an hour because she said that, hey, what you can do with this task force is look at things that we can't get at, well, from the government side. Yes, there are a lot of needs, and COVID has even made it much worse. So the supply is infinite, and the demand is very large. Men that have been arrested because it is a Class 3 felony say, wait a minute, it's not a problem. Everybody does it. No, everybody doesn't. Secondly, they say, hey, the girls really enjoy it. No, the girl pretends to enjoy it, or she'll be beaten and raped when she gets back. So no one's really looking at a solution. There are many organizations around the country talking about human trafficking. Very few are rescuing it all, and no one is really looking at a solution like we want to. So what do we really see as the solution? The solution is the local task force implementing the STOP program that we have that I'll tell you about. We want to look under their rug and get the public informed, because once the public's informed, the public is going to push officials to get something done. There are programs now to find the missing and programs to educate men to reduce the demand. And we can do research things in the future. That's the solution to actually stop it in the long run. 20 years ago, you didn't know what a pink ribbon meant. Now, we've gotten a lot done against breast cancer. No one knows a symbol against human trafficking. We would like to make the stop sign that symbol, because the stop sign says, stop trafficking of people. Every time you pull up to one, read it that way. If we get the stop sign as a symbol, then that will implement the STOP program as such, because the stop sign has 8 points. 1, inform the public. 2, then the officials will be pushed to get something done. 3, 4, and 5 are work on the supply side in getting better reporting, looking under the rug and finding it, rescuing the girls, and getting real rehabilitation to where they actually get trained in a job area. That's the supply side. The demand side, getting real prosecution. It's a Class 3 felony, as I said, and yet it's a revolving door. Most of the time, those things are simply plea bargained out. We want to find out what evidence do we really need to get them convicted. If we get convictions, that will reduce demand. We have an education program on the Eastern Slope that we could bring over that will help men understand how to really treat girls and women properly. And the last item, the 8th point, what if I got men from Google, from Boston, from Berkeley, from Austin and Boulder, all around, researchers all thinking about solutions. We are looking at the tectonic plates of the Earth. We're looking at the bottom of the ocean. We have a vehicle on Mars. We've launched the largest telescope in existence to look at the stars. Why can't we get some of the researchers thinking about solutions that, as a researcher, I don't even know about? Yes, the STOP program will work to help, and will take in anything else that works from other people to make it work. Okay? What of these 8 steps are we going to do in this next year here in the task force? We're going to get information out to the public. We're not going to worry about the education side there yet. We are going to get better reporting by teams of ex-law enforcement officials and a nurse to go out and look at things that are looked at in terms of the reporting and therefore the rescue by law enforcement. We do have rehabilitation sites, and we're going to work on the prosecution. So yes, we will be doing some research as we look at the websites that are available and other information and put that into a computer system. Okay? Why the Montrose area? Well, when I lived in the University of Colorado in Boulder and taught there, that was Tuesday and Thursday, and I was down here in the San Juans every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, jeeping and being around and doing things, skiing and Telluride, and I know the area. This is an isolated population from Ouray over to Delta, and it's a concentrated area. We can get something done there. Okay? It's a major tourism area of the Western Slope. Human trafficking does exist here. I've told you about the tip of the iceberg. I know of other things, the parts of the iceberg above water. I need to find out what else is going on the iceberg under the water. Okay? There's a single highway system through the area. That makes it much easier for us to work on this than over in eastern Colorado. Okay? Not only that, but the main thing is, I've tried to work on this over in northeastern Colorado. Everybody's interested in money, and they're not cooperating. They say, oh, we've got people talking about this, but they aren't really doing anything. There's no rescues and there's no STOP program. Okay? I've tried in Pueblo. There's too many murders and killings in Pueblo. That's what they're interested in. But over here, every place I go and every place I talk to people, they're interested in participating and helping so far. There's a very good cooperation here. Well, the Montrose Task Force program, what are we going to do? We're going to get the general public informed. We will have a communications center that people can call in and find out about what the information we have. We will be using the computer to document current efforts in the area and the region. We will be documenting the websites that are appropriate to look at. We need the computer for that. We will be doing the additional website development. I had 5 websites that related, but they're gone. I need to put them back up. Okay? We will be rescuing victims, and we will be assisting them. We have rehabilitation sites that we know of that we can use, and we will be working with the DA to see what information is needed for prosecution. Okay? What do we have in place? Well, from a presentation that I heard of last month in Grand Junction, I now know about Free International. My previous statistics said that if a boy or girl went missing, there was a 1% chance of finding them. No, now if we know from their home computer what of 20 different websites they use, we can track those and eventually they'll use them again, and that's how they found the girl from New Jersey. So we do have help. I have 2 programs there that will help us on anything that's missing. We do have sites for rehabilitation. I know 3 of them that I can use if we have girls that we rescue, or boys. We do have a Cash App, $Stop Slavery, that if the public wants to give, yes, they can. But we need funding as well. we have signs that are ready to post now in January, but we don't have funding to print them. We need that. We need funds for the computer. We have a dedicated phone, the National Policy Analysis Center, that is asking for these funds is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. It's existed since 1977. We've done a lot of work both here and overseas, and this is one of the public help areas that we can do, and we need the funding through that to get these things done. Yes, it will provide a dedicated phone system with this local area code. We have presentations ready to go to other organizations as well. So what do we really need? Well, we're getting volunteers all the time to take care of the phone coverage. We do need funding for the computer and the signs. We're hoping that the Community Foundation can really help us with that, with our proposal. We need volunteer time for investigation. We're getting ex-law enforcement people and nurses involved as teams to do that. But we do need some funding for travel and some presentations, and I'm going to be going to other fraternal organizations to get contributions for that. Human trafficking, can we stop it? Yes, not by ourselves, because we're a small organization, but with help together, we can stop it. Thank you, and thank you for your support for us.